The battle that should have been impossible had lasted 5 days. Across the Zephyrian system, the wreckage of Krek's bioships floated in space like dead sea creatures. On the planet's surface, the ground was littered with the bodies of warriors who had conquered 1,000 worlds, but could not defeat 200 humans. War Chief Gorth, the Render, stood in the ruins of what had been his command center, surrounded by the handful of warriors who remained alive. His massive body was wounded in dozens of places, his natural armor cracked and bleeding. For 3 centuries, he had been the most feared predator in the galaxy. Now he faced extinction at the hands of creatures half his size. How many survive? He asked his remaining officers. Less than 800 warriors, my lord. The soft skins have destroyed everything else. Gorth looked at the tactical displays showing human positions throughout the system. 200 soldiers had broken his army of 100,000. It should have been completely impossible, but the evidence was scattered across multiple worlds. They do not fight like any species we have ever conquered, his advisor said while treating his own wounds. They make our strengths useless. They turn our weapons against us. They poison our blood and confuse our minds. Through the broken walls of the command center, Gorth could see human soldiers moving through the ruins. They advanced carefully but confidently, checking every corner and securing every position. Even after their impossible victory, they moved like professionals finishing a job, rather than warriors celebrating triumph. Bring me their leader, Gorth commanded. I would speak with this creature before my death. Commander Hyunwoo arrived 2 hours later, escorted by his team but showing no fear or aggression. The human looked tiny next to the massive Krek's war chief, but something about his calm presence filled the ruined space around him. You fought with great skill, Gorth said in broken human language that he had learned from intercepted communications. Your species, you are true predators. Hyunwoo studied the dying alien with the same professional interest he had shown throughout the battle. You fought according to your evolutionary programming. We fought according to our training and experience. I do not understand this difference. How did weak prey defeat perfect hunters? You are not perfect hunters, Hyunwoo explained in simple words. You are specialized killers, very effective at what you evolved to do but limited by your biological design. Gorth's breathing was becoming difficult, but he listened carefully. And what are humans? Adaptable survivors. We do not have one perfect strategy for every situation. We have unlimited imperfect strategies that we modify and combine until something works. Captain So Young stepped forward, her rifle ready but pointed safely downward. Your people make the same mistake that every species makes when fighting us. You assume we think like you do. How do you think differently? Sergeant Taeho grinned while checking his remaining explosive devices. Like the universe is constantly trying to kill us and we are too stubborn to cooperate with it. Gorth looked at each human individually, trying to understand what made them so different from every other species he had encountered. They were wounded and exhausted from the long battle, but they showed none of the victory madness that usually followed combat. They seemed calm, professional, almost cheerful. Your warriors smile when they should feel fear, he observed. Lieutenant Yoonji laughed like she was sharing a joke with friends. Fear is just information telling us we are in danger. It reminds us to be more careful and more creative in our solutions. You do not experience fear like other creatures? We experience fear constantly, Master Sergeant Dongwoo said while treating wounded humans and aliens alike. Fear keeps us alive and alert, but we do not allow fear to control our decisions or limit our actions. Private Minho was still recording everything on his computer systems, documenting the conversation for future analysis. Fear without action is useless emotional noise. Action without thought is wasteful and dangerous. We think first, then act, then adapt based on the results. Gorth was quiet for several minutes, processing what he had learned about these strange creatures. Your species, you are the ultimate predators. We were never hunters. We were just another type of prey that you learned to catch. No, Hyunwoo corrected gently. We are survivors first and always. Everything else is just methods and tools. As Gorth the Render died, his final words were broadcast across Krek's space through automatic communication systems. Warning to all Krek's warriors. The softskins do not fight like any species we understand. They do not fight like warriors or soldiers. They fight like death itself has learned to think. The news of the impossible victory spread through the galaxy faster than light-speed communication. Species that had lived in terror of the Krek's horde for centuries could barely process the reports. The unstoppable force had been stopped by a tiny group of humans using methods that made no sense to anyone. In the Galactic Council chambers, Ambassador Ji-Hai Choi faced a room full of confused and frightened alien delegates. Some wanted to celebrate humanity's great victory. Others wanted to understand how such a small force had achieved the mathematically impossible. Many simply wanted reassurance that humans would never use those same tactics against them. "How was this possible?" asked the Alteran delegate, his blue skin pale with shock. "Our best military scientists cannot comprehend your methods." "We did not fight the Kreks," Ji-Hai explained in simple terms. "We studied them like laboratory subjects. Every battle taught us new information about their biology, psychology, and tactical patterns. By the end of the campaign, we understood them better than they understood themselves. But your casualties must have been enormous. 23 soldiers wounded. 0 deaths." The chamber became completely silent. The humans had won the greatest military victory in recorded galactic history, without losing a single person. Crystal Singer Velthara stood to address the council with his chiming voice. "I observed human warfare methods directly. They do not fight to destroy enemies. They fight to understand enemies completely. Once they achieve total understanding, victory becomes mathematically certain." "That approach seems disturbing," whispered the Hive delegate. "It is evolution in action," Ji-Hai replied. "We evolved as persistence hunters who never gave up, never stopped learning, and never accepted that any problem was truly unsolvable." 8 months later, the galaxy had begun changing in fundamental ways. The surviving Kreks warriors had requested formal peace negotiations, claiming they wanted to learn the wisdom of thinking warfare from humanity. Other warrior species throughout known space sent military observers to study human tactical methods. Even peaceful species began incorporating human-style adaptability into their approaches to science, diplomacy, and social organization. The concept that every problem had a solution if you were willing to think creatively spread across thousands of worlds. On Earth, Ghost Unit returned to their military base for rest, medical treatment, and mission debriefing. The 7 soldiers who had defeated the most powerful military force in galactic history went back to their normal routines of equipment maintenance, physical training, and preparation for whatever impossible mission might come next. Commander Hyun-woo sat in his office reviewing reports from alien military observers who had studied every aspect of the battle. Every species in the galaxy wanted to understand human warfare, but most of them were focusing on the wrong details. Captain So Young knocked on his door and entered without waiting for permission. "The Zephyrians want to establish a military academy based entirely on our methods." "Excellent. They learn quickly when properly motivated. The Granite people want us to train their generals in advanced psychological warfare techniques. Yoon-ji will enjoy that assignment. And the Alterans want to purchase licenses for our weapons technology." Hyun-woo smiled and shook his head. "Tell them the weapons are not important. The thinking process behind the weapons is what actually matters." So Young nodded and started to leave, then paused at the door. "Sir, do you think we changed something fundamentally important? The way the galaxy approaches problems and conflicts?" Hyun-woo considered the question while looking out his window at human soldiers training alongside alien volunteers. Species that had never cooperated before were now learning to combine their different strengths and compensate for each other's weaknesses. "We demonstrated that there is always another approach to try," he said finally. "Even when a problem appears completely impossible, even when every expert tells you to surrender, there is always one more solution worth attempting. And if that solution fails, then you try another approach, and another after that. You keep trying new methods until you find one that works or until you run out of time. What if you run out of new approaches to try? Humans never run out of approaches. That is the essential characteristic that defines us as a species." Outside his window, Hyun-woo could see the future taking shape. Human instructors were teaching alien students that every challenge could be overcome with sufficient creativity, persistence, and willingness to try unconventional solutions. The galaxy was becoming more adaptable, more inventive, and more hopeful about solving difficult problems. The Kreks bioships came out of hyperspace like a nightmare made real. Each vessel was grown instead of built, their hulls pulsing with organic life and covered with weapon pods that looked like infected wounds. The ships were massive, some as large as small cities, and they moved through space with the fluid grace of living creatures. At the center of the fleet was the largest bioship anyone had ever seen. It belonged to War Chief Gorth the Render, and it was more like a floating mountain than a spacecraft. Weapon systems covered every surface, and the hull was scarred from 1,000 battles across 3 centuries of conquest. Across the galaxy, alien intelligence services watched the unfolding battle through hidden sensors and spy satellites. This would be humanity's first real test against an enemy that had never known defeat. Most observers expected to witness the end of human military legend. In the human command ship, Colonel Young-Soo Kang studied the tactical displays with calm professional interest. 112 bioships detected. Estimated 100,000 warriors total. Standard Krex attack formation. They are not even trying to be creative, observed Captain So-Young Park from her weapons station. Same approach they have used for 300 years of conquest. Commander Hyun-woo nodded while reviewing intelligence reports. Why would they change? These tactics have never failed them before. Are we going to teach them why change is important? Asked Sergeant Taeho with his usual grin. Absolutely. The first phase of the battle began in the vacuum of space. Captain Sung-min-oh led his squadron of human fighters toward the massive Krex bioships. To any reasonable observer, it looked like certain suicide. The human ships were tiny insects compared to their mountain-sized enemies. But humans had never been reasonable fighters. Instead of maintaining safe distances and trading long-range fire like civilized species, they flew directly at the enemy formations. Krex gunners tried to track the small, fast-moving targets, but human pilots used flying techniques that broke every rule of space combat. Seung-min's fighter took multiple direct hits from biocannons that should have vaporized it instantly, but the ship continued flying toward its target. The hull was cracked, the engines were smoking, and the cockpit was filled with sparks, but the pilot pressed his attack. Human fighter is critically damaged, reported a confused Krex gunner. It should retreat for emergency repairs. Instead, Seung-min accelerated directly toward the bioship's main weapon cluster. At the last possible second, he ejected from his doomed fighter and activated its self-destruct system. The explosion tore a massive hole in the organic hull, exposing the ship's vital systems to space. But Seung-min was not finished with his attack. Using his emergency rocket pack, he flew through the breach and into the bioship itself. Once inside, he planted explosive charges throughout the ship's nerve center before fighting his way to an escape pod. The Krex warriors inside the ship could not believe what they were seeing. This small human had deliberately destroyed his own craft, invaded their vessel single-handedly, and was now running through their corridors like he owned them. Other human pilots used similar tactics throughout the battle. They rammed bioships with surgical precision, their fighters exploding at exactly the right moment to cause maximum structural damage. They ejected at the last second and boarded enemy vessels, turning the aliens' own weapon systems against them. This is impossible, growled Gorth the Render as he watched his fleet take serious damage from forces a tiny fraction of their size. They fight like they want to die. No, my lord, said his chief tactical advisor while studying the human attack patterns. They fight like death means nothing to them. There is a difference. On the planet's surface, Ghost Unit was preparing the ground battle using methods the Krex had never encountered before. Taeho had spent 4 days turning the entire landing zone into a complex weapon system. His explosives were not just bombs, but parts of an interconnected network that could reshape the battlefield in real time. Traditional demolition creates destruction, he explained to amazed Zephyrian engineers. Advanced demolition creates tactical opportunities. When the first Krex landing pods crashed into the surface, they found what appeared to be normal terrain suitable for ground combat. Rocky hills, open valleys, and scattered forests provided excellent cover for advancing infantry forces. But as soon as the alien warriors began moving toward their objectives, the landscape itself started fighting back. Explosions erupted in carefully timed sequences, not designed to kill the Krex directly, but to force them to move in specific directions. Hills collapsed to create barriers that channeled enemy movement. Underground water systems were breached to flood valleys and create impassable swamps. The terrain became a living maze that forced the invaders to go exactly where the humans wanted them. The ground is changing shape, reported a bewildered Krex warrior to his commanders. The hills move like living things. Impossible. Rock is rock. Not when humans control it. So Young whispered through her rifle scope from a position 3 kilometers away. She had learned from the earlier battle that Krek's armor could be penetrated, but now she was using completely different ammunition. Dr. Shin's research had revealed that the alien armor was living tissue that needed specific biological nutrients to maintain its strength. So Young's new bullets carried a chemical payload designed to poison the armor itself. When her shots hit their targets, the organic protection began to weaken and crack like diseased skin. "My armor is dying," reported a panicked Krek's warrior as his protective shell began falling apart. The human weapons carry poison that kills living metal. Private Minho had moved far beyond simple computer hacking. He had created a viral program that spread through the Krek's bioship network like a disease. The virus did not destroy their technology, but made it completely unreliable when they needed it most. Weapons fired at random targets instead of intended ones. Communication systems broadcast false orders and conflicting information. Navigation computers gave wrong directions that sent ships flying into each other. The Kreks found themselves fighting their own equipment as much as the human forces. "Our bioships are malfunctioning," reported a frustrated Kreks technician. "The computer systems think we are enemies." "Run full diagnostic procedures," I tried. "The diagnostic systems are also infected. They report everything is working perfectly while nothing actually works." Lieutenant Yoonji had evolved her psychological warfare into something approaching mental terrorism. Her broadcasts now reached every Krek's communication device in the system, and her messages were specifically designed to exploit their deepest cultural fears and biological instincts. She spoke to them in perfect Krek's language about the shame of losing to weaker beings. She described how their ancestors would reject them in the afterlife for failing against inferior prey. She painted detailed pictures of their deaths while laughing like she was hearing amusing jokes. "The soft-skinned female lives inside our communication systems," reported one Krek's warrior. "Her voice follows us everywhere we go." "Shut off your radio equipment." "I already did." "She is still talking to me." Master Sergeant Dongwu had taken biological warfare to entirely new levels. Using tissue samples collected from the first battle, he had developed targeted diseases that attacked Krek's physiology while remaining completely harmless to other species. The illnesses were not designed to kill quickly, but to weaken and confuse. Krek's warriors found their reflexes slowing, their vision becoming blurry and their coordination failing. They remained dangerous opponents, but they were no longer perfect fighting machines. "Something is wrong with my warriors," Gorth observed as he watched battle recordings from the surface. "They move like they are sick or injured." "The humans have poisoned the very air we breathe," his advisor replied. "They turn our biological advantages into weaknesses." But the most disturbing aspect of the human military campaign was not any single weapon or tactic. It was the way they learned and adapted during the actual fighting. Every Krek's countermeasure was met with immediate human responses. Every new alien strategy was analyzed and defeated within hours of being deployed. The humans treated the massive battle like a scientific experiment. They tested new approaches, recorded the results, and instantly shared successful techniques across their entire force. Each engagement made them stronger and more effective. "They are not fighting to win this specific battle," Gorth realized with growing horror. "They are fighting to learn everything about how to destroy our entire species." As the battle continued across multiple fronts, alien observers throughout the galaxy began to understand something truly frightening. The humans were not desperate defenders making a final heroic stand against overwhelming odds. They were researchers conducting a field study, with the most powerful military force in galactic history serving as their laboratory specimens. The tide of battle was shifting, but not through superior numbers or advanced technology. The humans were winning through adaptation, creativity, and their disturbing willingness to try tactics that other species would consider completely insane. Gorth the Render, supreme war chief of the greatest warrior race in known space, found himself facing an enemy unlike anything in 3 centuries of. The massive council chamber on Station Alpha buzzed with worried voices from across the galaxy. Representatives from hundreds of worlds sat in floating chairs arranged in circles, their different forms creating a strange rainbow of alien life. Ambassador Ji-Hye Choi sat quietly in the human section, watching the panic spread through the room like a virus. The Alterans were the most upset. These tall, blue-skinned beings waved their forearms frantically as they spoke about the destruction. Their homeworld had been attacked 3 days ago. Half their population was gone. The Krex horde grows stronger with each world they devour, announced Speaker Zalthon, his voice echoing through translation devices. They take our people as slaves. They strip our planets of every resource. They leave nothing but empty rock behind. Jihai had read the intelligence reports. The Krex were 8 feet tall, covered in natural armor that looked like black metal. They had claws that could cut through steel and teeth designed for tearing flesh. Most terrifying of all, they never stopped. For 300 years, they had been moving through the galaxy like a plague, consuming everything in their path. The granite delegate spoke next. These rock-like beings rarely showed emotion, but today their voice rumbled with fear. Our military analysis shows the Krex forces growing by 30% each year. Every world they take makes them stronger. Every victory brings them more ships, more warriors, more weapons. A small, furry creature from the Whisker Coalition squeaked from her floating chair. What about the Omega defense grid? Our most powerful weapons? Useless, replied the Zephyrian delegate. Crystal Singer Velthara was 8 feet tall and made of living crystal that caught the chamber's lights. When he spoke, his voice sounded like wind chimes. The Krex destroyed our Omega stations in the first hour of battle. Their bioships adapt to our energy weapons. Nothing we have can penetrate their armor. Jihai listened to the debate while studying the tactical displays floating above the chamber. Red dots showed Krex positions throughout the galaxy. Blue dots showed Allied forces. The red was spreading faster than the blue could retreat. Perhaps we should consider evacuation, suggested an insect-like delegate from the hive worlds. Move our populations to the far rim beyond their reach. And abandon half the galaxy? The Alteran speaker's blue skin darkened with anger. That is surrender, not strategy. Better surrender than extinction, the insect replied. The argument continued, but Jihai could see they were getting nowhere. She had attended these emergency sessions for weeks, and the result was always the same. The alien military leaders would present their plans, explain why they had failed, and ask for more ships to try the same failed tactics again. The problem was simple. Every species in the galaxy fought the same way. They built bigger ships, developed stronger weapons, and met their enemies in direct combat. Whoever had more ships and better technology usually won. The Krex followed the same rules, except they were always stronger. Their bioships grew new weapons during battle. Their warriors got stronger by eating their enemies. They turned every victory into an advantage for the next fight. Even the legendary human warriors could not defeat these monsters, said the Whisker delegate, her tiny voice barely audible through the translation system. The chamber fell silent. Every species in the galaxy knew about human military actions. They had heard the stories, seen the battle recordings, read the casualty reports. Humans had a reputation that made other species nervous. The Battle of Ceres Station, where 300 human marines had held off 10,000 pirates for 6 months. The Siege of New Geneva, where human soldiers fought without food or ammunition for 8 weeks and still won. The rescue of Proxima Colony, where a dozen human commandos had saved 50,000 civilians from a terrorist army. But these victories came with a cost that other species found disturbing. Humans fought when they should retreat. They attacked when they should defend. They sacrificed themselves to save others without hesitation. Other species respected human military power, but they also feared it. Humans fight like demons, whispered the hive delegate. They laugh when they should cry. They charge when they should run away. They treat death like a tool, added a granite officer. Other species fight to live. Humans fight knowing they might die. Jihai had heard these descriptions before. After humanity's first military victories, alien news reports had called them the species that weaponizes desperation and warriors who see impossible odds as a personal challenge. But she also knew something the other delegates did not. Humanity's military reputation was based on old battles against pirates and terrorists. The galaxy had never seen what humans could do when they fought a real war against a real enemy. She activated her communication device and sent a coded message to Earth Command. Council requests assistance with Krex situation. Recommend Ghost Unit deployment. The response came back within minutes. Ghost Unit standing by. Awaiting mission parameters. Jihai smiled slightly. Ghost Unit was Earth's most elite military force. 7 soldiers who had never failed a mission. Their operations were so classified that most aliens had never heard of them. But Jihai had read their files. Impossible rescues, Surgical strikes against overwhelming odds, missions that should have ended in disaster but somehow always succeeded. The debate in the council chamber was getting louder. The Zephyrian delegate was now showing holographic images of his homeworld under attack. Entire cities had been consumed. Millions of crystal beings had been taken as slaves or simply eaten. The Krex war chief has sent us a message, Velthara announced, his crystalline form flickering with fear. He says our worlds look soft and tasty. He promises to visit our homeworld next. More panic filled the chamber. The Zephyrian homeworld had 10 billion civilians. If it fell, the Krex would control the entire sector and have access to the galaxy's most advanced technology. Ji-Hai stood up. Her movement was small compared to the giant aliens around her, but something about the way she moved made everyone stop talking. Humans were smaller than most galactic species, but they moved differently. Too quick, too precise, like predators ready to strike. Earth would like to offer assistance, she announced. The chamber erupted in surprised voices. The Alteran speaker looked confused. You wish to send your battle fleets? We wish to send specialists. How many ships? Asked the granite delegate. 1 ship. 7 soldiers. For a moment, the chamber was completely silent. Then everyone started talking at once. Some aliens laughed. Others looked insulted. The Zephyrian delegate's crystal body flickered with bewildered colors. 7 soldiers? The Alteran's voice rose to a near shriek. Against 100,000 Krex warriors? Our best soldiers, Ji-Hai replied calmly. Impossible, declared the Hive delegate. Even humans cannot work miracles. The Krex are perfect killing machines. No, Ji-Hai corrected. They are perfect at what they have always done, but they have never faced anything like us. The room buzzed with confused translations as aliens tried to understand what the human ambassador meant. They had seen human warriors in action before, but always in small conflicts against weak enemies. This would be different. What makes you think 7 humans can succeed where our entire military has failed? Asked Velthara. Because we do not fight the way you fight. We do not think the way you think. We approach problems differently. Different how? Joyce thought about how to explain it in simple terms that aliens could understand. Your species developed warfare as an extension of your natural behaviors. You are logical, so you fight logically. You are strong, so you fight with strength. You are many, so you fight with numbers. That is correct military thinking. For you. But humans evolved differently. We are not the strongest or fastest or smartest. We survive by being the most stubborn. We never give up. We never stop trying new approaches. We adapt to anything, the council voted. Most delegates agreed to let Earth send their specialists, though few believed it would work. Some thought it was a brave gesture. Others believed humanity would finally meet an enemy they could not defeat. As the meeting ended, Ji-Hai sent another message to Earth Command. Permission granted for full deployment. Ghost Unit has complete operational freedom. The response was immediate. Ghost Unit launching in 4 hours. Commander Hyunwoo Kim requests all available intelligence on enemy capabilities. Ji-Hai began gathering the tactical files as aliens filed out of the chamber. Many gave her sympathetic looks as if she were sending 7 people to their deaths. The Zephyrian delegate approached her before leaving. I hope your warriors understand what they face, Velthara said. The Krex have never been defeated in open battle. Neither have our warriors, Ji-Hai replied, as she prepared the mission briefing. Ji-Hai thought about what made humans different from every other species in the galaxy. Most aliens evolved as herbivores or logical thinkers or social builders. They developed advanced civilizations through cooperation and careful planning. Humans evolved as persistence hunters. Not the strongest predators, but the smartest ones. The ones who never gave up, never stopped learning, never accepted that any problem was truly impossible to solve. The galaxy was about to learn the difference between fearing humanity's reputation and witnessing humanity's reality. News of the impossible victory traveled across the galaxy faster than the fastest ships. In council chambers on 100 worlds, alien leaders watched the battle recordings with growing amazement and fear. 7 humans had destroyed 30 Krex warriors without losing a single soldier. Some called it luck. Others whispered that the recordings must be fake. But on the Krex homeworld, War Chief Gorth the Render watched the same footage with growing excitement instead of fear. His massive body, covered in battle scars and ritual markings, leaned forward as he studied how the humans fought. These soft skins fight like the old devourers from ancient legends, he growled to his war chiefs. Finally, prey that will provide a worthy hunt. The old devourers were mythical creatures from Krek's history. According to legend, they were small beings that could kill anything, no matter how large or strong. Most Kreks believed they were just stories told to frighten children. But Gorth had always hoped they might be real. "Send word to all warpacks," he commanded. "The main force will advance immediately. I want to face these humans myself." Meanwhile, on the Zephyrian homeworld, real changes were beginning. Crystal Singer Velthara had requested that the humans train some of his soldiers in their fighting methods. What followed were the strangest military lessons in galactic history. Commander Hyunwoo stood in a training room facing 50 Zephyrian volunteers. The crystal beings towered over him like living statues, but something about his presence made them pay careful attention. "Your military thinks in terms of perfect solutions," he began. "You study a problem, calculate the best approach, then execute your plan. This works well when you are stronger than your enemy." The Zephyrians nodded. This was exactly how warfare was supposed to work. Study, plan, execute, win. But what happens when the perfect solution is impossible? Hyunwoo continued. When you are outnumbered, outgunned, and outmatched in every measurable way? One Zephyrian officer raised his crystalline hand. "We would retreat and request reinforcements from our allies. What if no reinforcements are coming? Then we would surrender to minimize casualties." Captain So-young laughed from where she was sitting on a weapons crate. "That is exactly why you lose battles. We would find a way to win anyway." Velthara spoke up from the back of the room. "But how can anyone win when victory is mathematically impossible?" "Because war is not mathematics," Sergeant Taeho explained. "Math assumes you have complete information and predictable variables. War has neither of those things." To demonstrate their point, Hyunwoo set up a training simulation. The Zephyrians would defend a position against computer-generated Kreks attackers. Following their military training, they built strong defensive walls and prepared to hold their ground with disciplined formations. The simulation began. The artificial Kreks forces were programmed to be 10 times stronger than the defenders. Following optimal military tactics, the Zephyrians fired their weapons in coordinated volleys and maintained perfect discipline under pressure. They were completely destroyed within 4 minutes. "Now observe our approach," said Lieutenant Yunji. Ghost Unit took the exact same scenario with the same overwhelming odds. But their response was completely different from anything the Zephyrians had ever seen. Instead of building fixed defenses, they scattered in all directions. Instead of coordinated group attacks, each human acted independently while somehow supporting the others. Most shocking of all, they deliberately put themselves in extreme danger to create opportunities for victory. So-young exposed herself to enemy fire to draw attackers into Taeho's explosive trap. Private Minho allowed enemies to chase him directly into Master Sergeant Dongwoo's prepared ambush position. Hyunwoo walked straight toward superior enemy forces, forcing them to group together where Yoonji could eliminate multiple targets with a single action. The humans won the simulation in 2 minutes and 37 seconds. "How is this possible?" Velthara asked in amazement. "You violated every principle of military science. You should have been destroyed instantly." "No," Hyunwoo corrected. "We followed different principles. Your species developed warfare as an extension of your natural behavior patterns. You are logical creatures, so your fighting is logical. You prefer safety, so your tactics minimize risk. That is correct strategic thinking. For your species, yes. But humans evolved very differently. We are persistence hunters from a death world. We do not give up when injured. We do not retreat when outnumbered. We adapt to whatever our prey does, and we keep attacking until we win or die." Dongwoo pulled up biological comparison data on his portable screen. "Your species has much longer lifespans than humans. You think in terms of preserving resources for future generations. We think in terms of using everything we have right now to survive today." "But that approach is wasteful and inefficient," protested a Zephyrian tactical officer. "Sometimes," Taeho agreed with a grin, "but inefficient survival is better than efficient extinction." The training continued for days, but the cultural differences seemed impossible to overcome. Zephyrians made decisions through careful analysis and group discussion. Humans made split-second choices based on incomplete information and individual judgment. Zephyrians planned for long-term success across multiple generations. Humans focused on immediate survival at any cost. Minho was teaching a group of Zephyrian computer specialists how he had hacked Krek systems during the battle. The key is not to understand their technology completely, but to understand it well enough to break it or control it. But their biocomputer systems are completely alien, one technician complained. How can you comprehend them so quickly? I do not need to comprehend them fully. I just need to comprehend them enough to make them do what I want instead of what they were designed to do. What if you make a critical mistake? Minho shrugged like it was no big problem. Then I try a different approach. Failure just gives me new information about what does not work. Meanwhile, Yunji was teaching psychological warfare techniques that made her students very uncomfortable. Fear is a weapon just like bullets or explosives. Every enemy has something they are afraid of. Find their fear and use it against them. But the Kreks do not experience fear, a Zephyrian intelligence officer said. They are bred specifically for combat. Fear was removed from their psychology. Everything feels fear when faced with the right stimulus. The challenge is discovering what that stimulus might be and how to apply it effectively. She played recordings of her broadcasts during the recent battle. The Kreks language was harsh and brutal, full of references to eating enemies and destroying worlds. But Yunji had used their own words to paint detailed pictures of their own deaths, delivered in a voice that sounded almost friendly. You described killing them like you were reading a cooking recipe, the officer observed with disturbed fascination. Exactly correct. I took something they understand perfectly and made it feel wrong. Kreks warriors expect enemies to sound angry or terrified when making threats. I sounded happy and calm. This created confusion and hesitation. And hesitation in battle equals death, So Young added from where she was maintaining her rifle. We create hesitation in our enemies. They experience death as a result. As the training progressed, more human reinforcements began arriving in the system. Colonel Youngsu Kang brought 200 additional soldiers and Dr. Haewon Shin, a scientist who specialized in studying alien biology for military applications. Captain Sung-Min Oh arrived with a squadron of human fighter ships that looked impossibly small compared to alien warships. The Zephyrians were not the only ones paying attention to human training methods. Intelligence services from across the galaxy had secret agents monitoring every lesson and recording every technique. What they reported back to their governments was deeply disturbing. Humans did not just fight battles. They studied warfare like a science. Every engagement was carefully analyzed for lessons. Every enemy weakness was cataloged and shared. Every failure was examined to prevent future mistakes. They treated military conflict like a massive experiment where the hypothesis was we can find a way to win, and every battle provided new data to test that theory. Dr. Shin spent her time studying captured Kreks equipment and biological samples. Fascinating evolutionary design, she told Velthera while examining armor fragments. But like all biological systems, it follows predictable rules and has exploitable weaknesses. What sort of weaknesses? Their armor is living tissue, not manufactured metal. That means it needs food. It can become diseased. It has a natural life cycle. Once you understand the underlying biology, you can design weapons specifically to attack the biological processes that keep it healthy. You would create diseases to use as weapons against living armor. Among many other approaches, yes. Humans have been fighting biological enemies much longer than we have been fighting each other. Bacteria, viruses, parasites, dangerous predators. We learned very early that every living thing has something that can kill it if you look hard enough. Captain Sung-Min was explaining human space combat philosophy to confused Zephyrian pilots. Your ships are designed to avoid taking damage at all costs. Our ships are designed to keep fighting effectively even after taking severe damage. But surely it is better to avoid being hurt in the first place. The human ship Silent Thunder appeared near the Zephyrian homeworld without warning. One moment the space was empty. The next moment a sleek black vessel was floating among the massive alien warships. The ship looked tiny compared to the crystal fleet surrounding the planet, but something about its design made the alien captains nervous. Inside the ship, Commander Hyunwoo Kim studied the tactical screens while his team prepared their equipment. The displays showed enemy positions, friendly forces, and civilian evacuation routes. Everything looked normal for a military operation except for one detail. The humans were badly outnumbered. Krek scout ships detected at the system edge, reported Private Minho Jang from his computer station. The young soldier's fingers moved quickly across holographic displays, gathering intelligence about enemy forces. They are watching our arrival. Good, said Captain So-Young Park as she cleaned her rifle. The weapon looked ancient compared to alien energy guns, but she handled it with the care of an expert. Let them see us coming. Fear works better when the enemy has time to think about it. Sergeant Tae-Ho Lee laughed while packing explosive charges into his equipment bag. Each device was small enough to fit in his palm, but he handled them like they could level mountains. 7 against 30 should be a fair fight. Any more than that and it would not be sporting. Lieutenant Eun-ji Song was listening to intercepted enemy communications through her headphones. Her computer translated the harsh Krex language into human words, but she was already learning to understand their speech patterns. They are calling us soft pink meat in their broadcasts. They sound excited about the hunt. Master Sergeant Dong Woo Han, the team medic, was studying alien biology files on his portable scanner. The data showed Krex anatomy in detail, highlighting potential weak points and vulnerabilities. Impressive physical design, he observed. But every biological system has flaws. The trick is finding them. Hyun-woo nodded to his team. These 6 soldiers had worked together for 5 years. They knew each other's strengths, covered each other's weaknesses, and shared complete trust in combat. More importantly, they all understood that impossible missions were just regular missions that required creative solutions. The ship docked at the main Zephyrian military station. When the airlock opened, the humans walked out carrying equipment that looked primitive by galactic standards. Simple weapons, basic camping gear, and tools that appeared to be centuries old. The waiting alien officers seemed confused and worried. Crystal Singer Velthara commanded the Zephyrian Defense Forces. His species stood 8 feet tall and was made of living crystal that reflected light in beautiful patterns. They were incredibly intelligent, but physically fragile, more suited for science than warfare. The sight of the compact, muscular humans made him nervous. "You are the legendary human warriors?" Velthara asked. His voice sounded like musical chimes, but there was doubt in his tone. "I expected more soldiers. Perhaps bigger weapons." "We bring what we need," Hyun-woo replied simply. Velthara led them through the station to the command center. Holographic displays showed the approaching Krex forces in detail. The images were terrifying to look at. Each Krex warrior stood 8 feet tall, covered in natural armor that looked like black metal. Their claws could cut through steel, their teeth were designed for tearing flesh, and their eyes showed no emotion except hunger. "They have destroyed everything we sent against them," Velthara explained while showing combat footage. "Our energy weapons barely scratch their armor. Our tactics mean nothing, because they are stronger and faster than any civilized species. They do not use strategy like we do. They simply attack and devour everything in their path." So Young studied the recordings carefully. They move in straight lines. No cover, no formation, no tactics. They expect their natural armor to protect them from everything. "Because it does protect them," Velthara said. "Nothing in our arsenal can penetrate Krex armor plating." Tae-Ho grinned and patted his equipment bag. "We have different tools, different approaches." Min-ho was recording everything on his computer system. Their communications are completely unencrypted. They do not expect anyone to understand their language or intercept their battle plans. "Overconfident," Eun-ji observed. "They have won so many battles that they stopped being careful." "Useful weakness," Dongwoo continued studying the biological scans. "Impressive physical capabilities, but they follow the same rules as any living creature. Strong armor, but armor needs joints to allow movement. Where there are joints, there are gaps." Velthara looked confused by the humans' calm reactions. "Do you not understand the danger? These are perfect killing machines. Your weapons appear primitive compared to our technology." Hyun-woo picked up his assault rifle and showed it to the crystal commander. "This fires metal bullets at high speed. Very old technology, but extremely reliable. Metal projectiles cannot penetrate Krex armor. We will see." Before Velthara could ask more questions, warning alarms began ringing throughout the station. Min-ho's computer screens lit up with incoming data from long-range sensors. "Krex Scout Force attacking civilian convoy in Sector 7, he reported. 30 warriors, standard rating formation. No air support detected. Perfect timing, Hyun-woo said. Good training opportunity." The humans collected their equipment and headed for their ship. Velthara followed, along with several Zephyrian officers who wanted to observe the battle. They expected to witness either a miracle or a massacre. "You are going to fight them immediately?" Velthara asked. "Should we not plan the attack first? Analyze their positions? Coordinate with our fleet?" "We have analyzed them. So Young said while loading her rifle with what looked like ordinary bullets. 30 Krex warriors attacking helpless civilians. Standard predator behavior. But what is your battle plan? Shoot the bad guys. Protect the good guys. That is your entire strategy? Tejo shrugged while checking his explosive devices. Complex plans fall apart when you contact the enemy. Simple plans adapt to anything. The human ship reached the battle zone within minutes. Through the viewports, they could see Krex warriors attacking a group of civilian transport ships. The aliens were using their claws and teeth to tear through ship hulls, dragging terrified families into the vacuum of space. 30 Krex warriors confirmed, Minho announced. They have attached boarding pods to 3 civilian vessels. Standard feeding behavior. So Young, eliminate the guards, Hyunwoo ordered. Tejo, prepare for close assault. Hyunji, start psychological operations. Everyone else, standard engagement protocol. The Zephyrian observers watched in amazement as the humans prepared for combat. They moved with practiced efficiency, each soldier knowing exactly what to do without needing orders. No panic, no hesitation, just professional warriors going to work. So Young positioned herself at a viewport with her rifle. Through her scope, she could see Krex sentries standing guard outside the civilian ships. At over 2 kilometers distance, the targets looked impossible to hit with primitive weapons. She fired once. A Krex warrior's head snapped back and he floated away from the ship dead. The metal bullet had somehow found a gap between armor plates and penetrated his skull. She fired again. Another guard eliminated. Impossible, whispered Velthera. Those shots were across kilometers of space. How did primitive projectiles penetrate their armor? Dongwoo smiled while monitoring the tactical display. She did not shoot at the armor. She shot at the spaces between armor sections. Krex biology requires joint flexibility for movement. Where there are joints, there are always gaps. The human ship moved closer to the enemy. Tejo launched himself into space wearing a simple pressure suit, carrying his bag of explosives. The Zephyrians watched him float toward a Krex boarding pod like he was taking a casual walk through a park. What is he doing? Velthara asked. Engineering work, Hyunwoo replied. Tejo reached the enemy boarding pod and attached several small devices to its hull. Then he pushed himself away and activated a remote control. The explosives detonated in a precise sequence, not destroying the pod but opening it like opening a metal can. The Krex warriors inside were suddenly exposed to deadly vacuum. Surgical demolition, Dongwoo explained to the amazed aliens, calculated to breach their artificial atmosphere while leaving the civilian ship completely intact. Meanwhile, Yunji was broadcasting on Krex communication frequencies. She had learned enough of their language to speak directly to the enemy warriors. Her voice was calm and pleasant as she described in graphic detail exactly how she planned to kill each one of them. The remaining Krex tried to retreat to their main assault ship, but they found humans waiting for them. Minho had hacked their ship's computer systems and locked all the airlocks. Hyunwoo and Dongwoo floated in space between the aliens and safety, firing metal bullets with deadly precision. Every shot found the gaps in Krex armor. Every bullet hit exactly where it would cause maximum damage. The aliens had never faced an enemy that could exploit their weaknesses so efficiently. The entire battle lasted 12 minutes. When it ended, 30 Krex warriors were dead and 0 humans were injured. The rescued civilians were completely unharmed. As the human ship returned to the station, Velthara stared at the tactical recordings in complete disbelief.